Hi there. My
Hey,
name is Avil Beckford, and I started the One Problem podcast. It's a way for us to learn from each other. In most cases, I have some prior relationship with the people who come on. One of my friends from Elevate Network recommended that I bring on my very special guest today. Ashley Brundage is a leadership and empowerment expert. Over to you, Ashley.
thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and present my one problem. And today, my one problem is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I say it's a problem because what happens is a lot of people get very polarized about those words and they get scared and they immediately put up their guard and they don't want to hear what's coming next. They want to run from what is this problem. So I have some solutions to drive real change. I came up with a 4-step empowerment process that anyone can do to navigate this diversity, equity, and inclusion problem without ever saying diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I call it empowering differences. And empowering differences is a 4-step process to live by as a solution for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it applies to everyone because let's break this down first. Empowerment is, of course, authority and power connected to people. It's important to everyone on this planet. Even Jeff Bezos wants more empowerment. And then we have differences hanging out over here. And differences is also something that every single person of the 7 billion different people on this planet have. And so when we have empowering differences as a construct, a leadership construct that anyone can do, you have to realize this with step 1, which is to know yourself. So I actually published an empowerment assessment to help you categorize where empowerment lives for you by isolating the authority items, that emotional confidence building driven section of your world, from the power items, which is of course all the tracked measured resources, which is of course sometimes money and sometimes power elements like contracts, business wins, business gained, business lost from a non-inclusive environment. But also it very well could be time, the most powerful of the empowerment elements that exist in this world. And so then you're going to work on this empowerment journey by seeing step 2 is to know others and learning about the 10 most common differences that we hold as humans, because we all have them: race, ethnicity, religion, gender, social economic class, ability, age, educational background, language. All of those are the part of the 10 most common differences that we have as humans. And how you use them, how you have them, you live on an axis in this world of privilege or disprivilege in relation to the 10 differences. So engaging on my platform will really help the user better understand how to navigate empowerment as a construct, which will lead you to understanding step 3, which is to develop your strategy for empowerment. And being strategic means which differences of yours to empower in which setting, but also which differences of the other 7 billion people on the planet and how to empower them in every setting as well, which will then lead you to the 4th and final step of my 4-step empowerment process, which is empowering actions. And so I call them empowering actions because it's a leadership action that you can do that ultimately these 10 empowering actions connect to diversity, equity, and inclusion without ever saying that in the initial discussion. So of course, the 10 actions are lots of things like inclusion and providing access for people and enlightenment, but you navigating how you can drive empowerment through each of these actions is literally what will shape our future together and solve DEI without ever saying DEI.
This is so interesting because when a lot of people hear, DEI or whatever shape or form, they want to run for the hills, right? It's been overused and people, but the way that you have presented your framework, it's very accessible. And as you are talking about knowing yourself and knowing others, the first two steps of your framework, what struck me was that it has so much to do with being emotionally intelligent.
Yeah, EQ is a big part of empowerment. You can't actually drive empowerment for other people until you have yourself ready to do that. And that's being consciously aware of where you fit in the world. And I had to overcome harassment, discrimination, and homelessness as an out transgender woman living in Florida. And I had to find employment and figure out how I fit into the world. And then I realized that while I had all these 10 differences, some of them I had with lots of privilege still. I could see, I can move, I can hear, I can walk, I could talk. I have white privilege since I live in America. That's a huge advantage. And I could utilize the empowerment in those settings to drive change for me, but then realize that I had to connect it to people in general. And then that's when I started thinking, wait a minute, I have a empowerment model that actually can work for anyone on this planet if they do this same principle of empowerment using the 4 steps. There's nothing that we can't accomplish.
Thank you so much. This has been very enlightening.